The phone rang at 2:33 a.m., cutting through the silence of Jae-sung-hyun Park's River Oaks mansion like a blade. He stared at the unknown number on his screen, every instinct honed by years in Houston's underworld screaming danger. Calls at this hour meant one thing: blood. "Mr. Park," the voice was calm, clinical. "This is Houston Methodist Hospital. We have an Ilara Nyala here. She's been admitted in active labor with severe complications. She's asking for you." His heart stopped. The whiskey glass slipped from his fingers, shattering against Italian marble. "What did you say?" "Ilara Nyala, sir. She's 9 months pregnant and I'll be there in 10 minutes. He was already moving, throwing on clothes with shaking hands. 9 months. It had been 9 months since he'd watched her walk out of his life, shoulders squared with dignity even as tears streamed down her beautiful face. 9 months since his fiancée had called her a filthy homewrecker in front of his entire household staff. 9 months of drowning in regret and rage, tearing Houston apart looking for her. And now this. She'd been pregnant. With his child? And she'd never told him? The River Oaks mansion loomed before Ilara like something out of a dream she had no business entering. All glass and steel and money that whispered rather than shouted, the kind of wealth that made her second-hand interview clothes feel like a costume. She clutched her purse tighter, squared her shoulders, and reminded herself why she was here. Mama's medical bills weren't going to pay themselves, and this job paid 3 times what she made at the diner. She just hadn't expected her new employer to look like sin wrapped in a Tom Ford suit. Jae-sung-hyun Park appeared in the marble foyer like a shadow gaining substance, all sharp angles and controlled power. His dark eyes swept over her with an intensity that made her skin prickle, assessing, calculating, seeing too much. A thin scar traced his jawline, the only imperfection on a face that belonged in magazines, not standing 3 feet away from her. "Miss Nyala," he said, his accent subtle, his voice smoke and gravel. "Welcome." For 3 weeks, Ilara kept her head down and her distance up. She learned the rhythms of the house, the way silence pooled in corners like water, the expensive emptiness of rooms no one used. She saw him in passing, always on his phone, always in motion, surrounded by hard-eyed men who called him sir with fear braided into respect. She told herself she didn't notice the way exhaustion sometimes softened his features late at night, or how he took his coffee black at 2 a.m. while working in his study, or the way his eyes followed her when he thought she wasn't looking. It was nearly midnight when everything shifted. Ilara was cleaning his study, humming softly while dusting bookshelves lined with first editions, when his voice cut through her solitude. "Beloved?" She jumped, nearly dropping her cloth. Jae-sung stood in the doorway, tie loosened, jacket discarded, looking more human than she'd ever seen him. His gaze fixed on the worn paperback she'd tucked into her apron pocket. "Toni Morrison," Ilara said, heat crawling up her neck at being caught. "I read during breaks. I hope that's—" "She is a friend of my mind," he quoted, stepping into the room. "She gather me, man. The pieces I am, she gather them and give them back to me in all the right order." Ilara stared. This dangerous man, this crime boss everyone whispered about, just quoted her favorite passage with perfect reverence? "You're not what I expected," she breathed. He moved closer, and she caught cedar and something darker, more complicated. His eyes, usually ice, held warmth now, and something that looked dangerously like loneliness. "Neither are you," he replied, his voice low, intimate. "Neither are you." The air between them shifted, charged with something neither of them should want. Ilara knew she should step back, maintain professional distance, remember the chasm between their worlds. She didn't move, neither did he. And in that loaded silence, something inevitable began. The late-night conversations became ritual. Ilara would find excuses to clean his study last, and Jae-sung would appear with 2 cups of tea, asking about her day like her answer mattered. She told him about her interrupted college dreams, her double major in literature and nursing before Mama got sick. He listened like he was memorizing every word. "You'll finish," he said one night with absolute certainty. "I can see it." "You barely know me," she countered, but her heart stuttered. "I know you read Morrison and Angelo during 15-minute breaks. I know you send half your paycheck home to Baton Rouge. I know you're brilliant and stubborn and too proud to ask for help even when you're drowning." His eyes held hers. "I know enough." Weeks bled into months. Their hands would brush, reaching for the same book, and electricity would arc between them, dangerous and inevitable. He asked about her grandmother's gumbo recipe, her father's Igbo roots, the way Louisiana lived in her bones. She asked about soul, about the brother he'd lost, about the loneliness that haunted his eyes even in crowded rooms. "You're not what they say you are," Ilara whispered one night. "I'm exactly what they say," Jae-sung replied, jaw tight. "But maybe not only that." The night everything shattered and reformed, Ilara found him in his study at 3 a.m., blood seeping through his white shirt, his face gray with pain. A business deal gone wrong, a knife meant as a warning. "I'm calling 911. "No." His hand shot out, gripping her wrist. "No hospitals, no police." "You're bleeding out." "Then help me, please, Ilara." She should have run, should have called for help anyway, quit this job, fled this dangerous man and his dangerous world. Instead, she locked the door and grabbed the first aid kit, her abandoned nursing training rising to the surface. Her hands shook as she cleaned the wound, stitched it closed with supplies he kept for exactly this reason. He didn't flinch, just watched her face with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Why are you still here?" he asked hoarsely. "I don't know," she admitted, taping the bandage. "I should go. I should—" He caught her hand, pulled her close. For one suspended moment, they breathed the same air, teetering on an edge they couldn't uncross. Then his mouth found hers, and she was falling, flying, burning alive. "This is a mistake," Ilara gasped against his lips. Jae-sung's hand cupped her face like she was precious, breakable, everything. "Then let's make it together." She kissed him back, and the world tilted into something irreversible. Their affair unfolded in shadows and stolen time. Midnight, when the mansion finally slept, Ilara would slip into Jae-sung's bedroom, and he'd pull her into his arms like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning. He touched her like she was sacred, learned every curve and sigh, whispered Korean endearments against her skin that sounded like prayers. "What does that mean?" she'd ask, breathless. "It means you're mine," he'd murmur, and for those dark hours, she let herself believe it. Weekends became escapes to his lake house outside the city, where no staff watched, no expectations waited. They cooked together, her grandmother's jambalaya meeting his mother's kimchi jjigae, laughing when flavors clashed and merged into something unexpectedly perfect. He taught her Korean phrases, she taught him to two-step to Zydeco music on the deck while stars wheeled overhead. "I've never had this," Jae-sung admitted one night, her head on his bare chest, his fingers tracing patterns on her shoulder. "Something real, something that's just mine, not strategy or obligation." "You have me," Ilara whispered, and meant it with terrifying completeness. He took her to hidden restaurants in Chinatown where no one knew his name, held her hand across candlelit tables, and looked at her like she hung the moon. She bloomed under his attention, let herself imagine futures she had no right to dream, waking up beside him in daylight, being introduced as more than the help, building something lasting. Then reality crashed in. "There's something you need to know," Jae-sung said one evening, tension coiling in his shoulders. "My family arranged an engagement. Minji Choi, her father's organization, has connections I need. It's business, politics, nothing real." Ilara's stomach dropped. "An engagement?" It means nothing. He reached for her hands, desperation bleeding through his usual control. You're who I want. She's a contract, a merger. You're your secret. Ilara finished, the words tasting like ash. The woman you touch in darkness but won't claim in daylight. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. She pulled away, wrapping arms around herself. When will I stop being your secret, Jae-sung? When do I get to be real? He stared at her, jaw working, a dozen answers dying on his tongue. The silence stretched, heavy with everything he couldn't promise. I need time, he finally said, to handle this right, to protect you. Or to keep me hidden while you marry someone else? Ilara, she kissed him to stop the words neither of them could bear to hear, let him pull her close, pretended his touch was answer enough. But doubt had taken root, and it grew in every shadow where their love was forced to hide.
Minji Choi arrived like winter, beautiful, cold, and inevitable. Ilara watched from the second-floor landing as Jae-sung greeted his fiancée in the foyer, all practiced courtesy and empty smiles. Minji was flawless in designer everything, her English perfect, her pedigree impeccable. Everything Ilara wasn't supposed to be. "Who's that?" Minji's voice carried, sharp with disdain, as Ilara descended the stairs with fresh linens. "Household staff," Jae-sung replied, his tone flat, professional. His eyes met Ilara's for one burning second before sliding away. That casual dismissal hurt more than any wound. The engagement party was announced for the following weekend. Korean high society, business associates, politicians whose palms Jae-sung greased, everyone who mattered in his world would attend. Ilara would serve drinks. "It's just theater," Jae-sung insisted the night before, pulling her close in the darkness of his room. "You're who I love. She's a contract, a business arrangement. This changes nothing between us." "It changes everything," Ilara whispered against his chest. "I'm your dirty secret, and tomorrow I'll serve champagne to the woman wearing your ring." "Ilara, do you love me?" "You know I do." His arms tightened desperately. "Then why do I have to hide?" He had no answer that didn't taste like cowardice. The engagement party was Houston opulence at its finest. Crystal chandeliers, champagne towers, women dripping in diamonds worth more than Ilara would see in a lifetime. She moved through the crowd in her server's uniform, invisible, watching Jae-sung stand beside Minji like they were carved from the same expensive marble. Minji's hand rested possessively on his arm. She laughed at something a councilman said, played the perfect fiancé, every inch the woman bred for this life. Jae-sung's face was a mask of polite attention, but Ilara knew his tells. The tension in his jaw, the way his fingers drummed against his thigh when he was trapped. Their eyes met across the room. In that moment, Ilara saw everything, his anguish, his conflict, his love. But he didn't move, didn't leave Minji's side, didn't cross that gleaming floor to claim the woman he claimed to love. He just stood there, choosing silence over courage, reputation over her. Ilara turned away, blinking back tears, and nearly collided with Minji's mother. "Careful, girl," the woman said, voice dripping contempt. "These glasses cost more than your monthly salary." "My apologies, ma'am." Ilara's voice stayed steady through sheer will. That night, after the guests left, and Minji departed with air kisses and wedding planning promises, Jae-sung found Ilara in his room. She was already dressed to leave. "Don't," he said roughly, catching her wrist. "Please, Ilara, stay. I can't keep being the woman you hide." Her voice broke on the words. "I can't keep watching you choose her in public and me in private." "Give me time." He pulled her close, desperate. "I'll fix this. I'll find a way out of the engagement. Just give me time." She wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to. But as he kissed her with the taste of promises he might not keep, Ilara felt the foundation of their hidden paradise beginning to crack. Time was running out, and they both knew it. The earring was small, gold, unremarkable, except that Alara had lost it 3 nights ago in Jae-sung's bed. Minji held it up like evidence at a trial, her perfectly manicured fingers trembling with rage. "Who's this?" Her voice cut through the morning quiet of the kitchen, where the entire household staff had gathered for breakfast assignments. Alara's blood turned to ice. The earring caught the light, and she saw her grandmother's face. These were the gold hoops Nana had given her for her 21st birthday. Irreplaceable. Damning. "I found it," Minji continued, her voice rising, "in my fiancé's bedroom, under his pillow, like some cheap motel souvenir." The kitchen went silent. Every eye turned, searching, landing on Alara's face like accusations. "You." Minji's gaze locked on her target with laser precision. She crossed the kitchen in 3 sharp strides, heels clicking like gunshots on marble. "You filthy home wrecker. Did you actually think he'd choose the help over me?" "Minji," Alara started, but her voice cracked. "Did you think spreading your legs would make you matter?" Minji's beautiful face twisted with contempt. "You're a plaything, nothing more. Entertainment for a man who gets bored easily. Did he tell you he loved you? Did he make promises?" Alara stood frozen, shame and fury warring in her chest. Around them, the staff watched with expressions ranging from pity to disgust. Mrs. Chen, the head housekeeper, looked away. Marcus, the driver who'd been kind to her, stared at his shoes. The study door opened. Jae-sung appeared, clearly awakened by the commotion, hair disheveled, still in a t-shirt and slacks. His eyes found Alara's first, then Minji's, then the earring glinting in his fiancé's hand. Alara saw the calculation flood his features, the split-second weighing of options, reputation, consequences. She watched him measure what defending her would cost against what losing her meant. "Jae-sung," her voice was barely a whisper, a plea, a prayer. He opened his mouth, closed it. 5 seconds passed. 5 seconds that felt like centuries, like drowning, like watching the last light in the universe blink out. His silence was the loudest thing she'd ever heard. "That's what I thought," Minji said softly, viciously. "Even he knows you're not worth the embarrassment." Something in Alara shattered and reformed into steel. She reached behind her back, untied her uniform apron with hands that only shook slightly, and folded it with careful precision. She set it on the marble counter like a flag of surrender. "Alara," Jae-sung finally found his voice, stepping forward. "Don't." The word cracked like a whip. She grabbed her purse from the hook, her grandmother's earring still in Minji's hand like a trophy. "Alara, wait, please." But she was already moving, head high, shoulders back, every ounce of her grandmother's dignity wrapped around her like armor. She walked past Minji's smirk, past the pitying stares, past Jae-sung's outstretched hand. "Alara!" His roar shook the walls. She didn't look back. The front door closed behind her with quiet finality, and she descended the mansion steps into Houston's brutal morning sun. She had $40 in her purse, a broken heart, and her pride. It would have to be enough. Behind her, she didn't see Jae-sung shove past Minji, didn't hear him screaming orders at Marcus to follow her, didn't know that within an hour, he'd have every resource at his disposal, tearing Houston apart looking for her. Alara Nayala had learned early how to disappear, and this time she vanished like smoke, leaving only the ghost of jasmine perfume and a man finally understanding what his cowardice had cost. 2 pink lines. Alara stared at the pregnancy test in her 3rd ward apartment bathroom, the words on the box blurring through tears. 2 weeks since she'd walked out of that mansion. 2 weeks of sleeping on her cousin's couch, of applying for jobs that paid a fraction of what she'd made, of trying to forget the way Jae-sung's silence had felt like a knife between her ribs. Now this. Her hand moved to her still flat stomach, and despite everything, the fear, the anger, the betrayal, she felt a fierce surge of protectiveness.
This baby was hers, not his. He'd made his choice when he stood frozen in that kitchen, calculating costs while Minji destroyed her. The apartment she found was barely 400 square feet, walls thin enough to hear neighbors' arguments, hot water a luxury. She worked morning shifts at a diner, afternoons at a dry cleaner, nights cleaning office buildings. Her body ached constantly, but she couldn't afford to stop. Medical bills were mounting even with the county clinic. Her mother called weekly from Baton Rouge. "Does the father know, baby girl?" "He doesn't want us, Mama." The lie tasted like poison, but the truth, that she was too proud to tell him, too broken to risk his pity, was worse. By month 7, the headaches started, blurred vision, swelling in her hands and feet. The clinic doctor's face grew serious. "Ms. Nyala, your blood pressure is dangerously high. You need bed rest, reduced stress." "I need to work, doctor." "If you don't slow down, you could have a stroke. The baby could—" "I'll be careful." She couldn't afford careful. Rent didn't pay itself. Across the city, Jae-sung Hyun Park was destroying everything he'd built. 6 weeks after Ilara left, he walked into Minji's family estate and ended the engagement. Her father's face purpled with rage. "You'll regret this, Park. We'll bury you." "Try," Jae-sung said flatly, and meant it. His second-in-command, Dae-jung, watched him burn through private investigators like matches. Every lead went cold. Ilara had vanished into Houston's sprawl like she'd never existed. "Where the fuck is she?" Jae-sung snarled at his 5th PI in as many weeks. "Sir, it's possible she left the city." "She didn't leave. Find her." But weeks turned to months. Business deals fell apart as he grew reckless, volatile, unfocused. The Choi family's retaliation cost him 3 shipping contracts and a city councilman's loyalty. His board of directors murmured about instability. He didn't care. Dae-jung found him one night at 3 a.m., surrounded by surveillance photos. Her hair tie, powder blue, worn, clutched in his fist like a talisman. "Is she worth destroying everything?" Dae-jung asked quietly. Jae-sung looked up, and his second-in-command saw something he'd never seen before. His boss, broken. "She is everything," Jae-sung whispered, and I let her walk away. I stood there and watched her dignity shatter because I was afraid of what loving her publicly would cost me. His laugh was bitter, hollow. Now I know. It costs everything anyway. 9 months. 9 months of parallel suffering. Her growing his child while cleaning other people's toilets. Him tearing Houston apart, looking for the woman carrying a secret he didn't know existed. Neither knew how close they were to losing everything that mattered. Neither knew the call was coming. The pain started as a dull throb behind Ilara's eyes while she was vacuuming the 17th floor of the Pennzoil Tower. By the time she reached the stairwell, her vision was swimming, black spots dancing at the edges. Her hands were so swollen she could barely grip the railing. "Just need to sit," she mumbled to no one, lowering herself to the concrete steps. Just a minute. She woke to fluorescent lights and paramedics shouting blood pressure numbers that sounded like death sentences. The ambulance screamed through Houston's pre-dawn streets while someone held an oxygen mask to her face and told her to stay calm. Stay calm? Her baby was dying inside her, and they wanted her to stay calm. Methodist Hospital swallowed her in controlled chaos, gurneys, running nurses, a doctor's face swimming into focus above her. "Ms. Nyala, your blood pressure is critical. The baby's in severe distress. We need to do an emergency C-section right now. Do you understand?" She understood she was alone. Understood she might die here with no one to hold her hand, no one to tell her baby about his mother if the worst happened. The thought cracked something open in her chest. "Wait," she gasped, grabbing a nurse's sleeve as they prepped her for surgery. "Please, there's someone I need." Jae-sung. His name tore out of her like a confession. Jae-sung Hyun Park. She rattled off the number she'd tried so hard to forget, tears streaming into her hairline.
Tell him I'm sorry. Tell him about the baby, please." The nurse squeezed her hand. "We'll call him, honey, I promise." At 2:33 a.m., Jae-sung's phone shattered the silence of his bedroom. Unknown number. He answered before the second ring, every instinct screaming. The nurse's words didn't make sense, couldn't make sense. Ilara, hospital, labor, baby in distress. Baby. He was moving before thought caught up, throwing on sweatpants and a t-shirt, screaming for Daejung to get the car. 8 minutes. He made it in 8 minutes, sprinting through Methodist's ER like a man possessed. "Ilara Nyala," he gasped at the nurse's station. "Where is she?" "Sir, are you family?" "I'm the father. Where is she?" They were wheeling her towards surgery when he burst through the double doors. Ilara looked so small on the gurney, hospital gown swallowing her frame, eyes glassy with pain and fear. When she saw him, something between a sob and a laugh escaped. "You came," she whispered. Jae-sung grabbed her hand like a drowning man finding shore, bringing it to his lips, his forehead, his heart. "I'll always come for you. I'll always come for you. I'm sorry I didn't prove that sooner." "Sir, you'll need to scrub. Tell me what to do." They rushed him through it, surgical gown, mask, gloves, and then he was beside her in the OR, holding her hand while they erected a blue curtain at her chest. She was shaking, teeth chattering despite the warmth. "I'm scared," she whispered. "I'm here." He pressed his forehead to her, the only part of her he could reach. "I'm not going anywhere, not ever again." The surgery was a blur of medical terminology and controlled urgency. Then, cutting through everything, a sound that stopped Jae-sung's heart and restarted it simultaneously. A baby's cry, strong, furious, alive. The doctor announced, "It's a boy, a healthy baby boy." They brought him around the curtain, tiny, perfect, screaming his displeasure at the world. The nurse placed him against Ilara's chest, and Jae-sung watched through tears he didn't try to hide as his son found his mother's heartbeat and quieted. "A son," he breathed, his voice breaking on wonder and grief and overwhelming love. "We have a son." Ilara looked up at him, tears streaming, and whispered, "His name is Kai." "Kai," Jae-sung repeated, touching one impossibly small hand. His son's fingers wrapped around his thumb, and everything, every mistake, every moment of cowardice, every second of the last 9 months, crystallized into singular clarity. This was everything, and he'd almost lost it because he'd been too afraid to fight. Never again. Recovery was a haze of pain medication and exhaustion, but Ilara woke to find Jae-sung in the chair beside her bed, Kai sleeping against his chest. His eyes were red-rimmed, fixed on their son's face like he was memorizing every detail. "How long have I been out?" Her voice came rough, throat dry. 6 hours. He looked up, and the rawness in his expression made her chest ache. "They said the surgery went well. You're going to be okay. And Kai? Perfect. 10 fingers, 10 toes, and your eyes." His smile was tremulous. "Ilara, why didn't you tell me?" The question hung between them, gentle but unavoidable. She looked away, shame heating her cheeks. "I was scared," she admitted quietly, "and so angry. You stood there, Jae-sung. You watched her destroy me, and you just stood there. I thought I was nothing to you, just the help you slept with when you got bored." "God, no." He shifted carefully, keeping Kai secure. "Ilara, look at me, please." She did, and saw tears tracking down his face. "I was afraid," he said, voice breaking. "Afraid to love you publicly because I thought it made me weak, vulnerable. I was terrified my enemies would use you against me, that bringing you into my world would get you killed. So I tried to keep you hidden, thinking I was protecting you." His laugh was bitter. "But hiding you didn't protect you. It destroyed you. It made you think you didn't matter when you were the only thing that did." "You chose her," Ilara whispered. "I chose wrong. I chose cowardice." He leaned forward, intensity burning in his red-rimmed eyes. But Ilara, I broke off the engagement 6 weeks after you left. Minji's family has been trying to destroy me ever since. I've spent 9 months tearing Houston apart looking for you. I bought a house in 3rd Ward, near where your cousin lives, hoping, praying I'd see you at the corner store, the laundromat, anywhere. Her breath caught. You bought a house? I bought a home. For us. For the family I prayed you'd give me another chance to be part of. He shifted Kai gently into the hospital bassinet, then pulled out his phone. I need you to see something. He dialed, and Daejung's face appeared on screen, surprise flickering across his features. Hyung, it's 3 a.m. Wake everyone up. Conference call in 5 minutes. Everyone who matters. 10 minutes later, Jae-sung held the phone so the camera captured him, Ilara in the hospital bed, and Kai sleeping peacefully. A dozen faces filled the screen. His second-in-command, his lieutenants, associates who controlled pieces of his empire. I'm calling to make something clear, Jae-sung said, his voice carrying the steel that made men twice his size nervous. This is Ilara Nyala, the woman I love. This is our son, Kai. They are my family. Not a secret, not something to be hidden or ashamed of. My family. Silence on the call. Ilara's heart hammered. Anyone who threatens them, who disrespects them, who even looks at them wrong, answers to me personally. Spread the word through every channel, every contact, every corner of this city. They are under my protection. They are mine. He ended the call and set the phone aside, turning to Ilara with an expression that was equal parts terrified and determined. What does this mean? She asked, voice trembling. It means I'm choosing you. Publicly, permanently, no more shadows. He took her hand, brought it to his lips. It means I'm done being a coward. You're not my secret, Ilara. You're my future. If you'll still have me. She looked at him, this dangerous, powerful man who just claimed her in front of everyone who mattered in his world, and saw what she'd always seen beneath the ice. Someone desperate to be loved for who he was, not what he could provide. Ask me again, she whispered, in the daylight, in front of people. Ask me then. His smile broke like sunrise. I will, every day, until you believe it. The house in 3rd Ward wasn't a mansion. It was a renovated craftsman with a wide porch, oak trees in the yard, and neighbors who actually knew each other's names. Jae-sung carried Kai's car seat up the front steps, while Ilara stood on the sidewalk, staring. You really bought this? 9 months ago. He set the car seat down gently, their son sleeping through the commotion. The inside was furnished, but unlived in. A nursery painted in soft yellows and greens, a kitchen that opened to a backyard perfect for a child to play in someday. Nothing like the cold marble palace of River Oaks. This feels like home, Ilara whispered, and started crying. Within a week, Jae-sung had moved her mother and 2 younger siblings from Baton Rouge into a house 3 blocks away, paid off every medical bill with a stroke of his pen, set up trust funds for her siblings' college. Ilara watched the numbers on the bank statements and felt panic claw at her throat. This is too much. I can't owe you. You don't owe me anything. Jae-sung caught her hands, his grip gentle but firm. This isn't a debt, Ilara. This is what love looks like. Carrying weight together. Let me help, please. I'm not a charity case. You're the woman I love, the mother of my son, my family. His eyes held hers. I hid you because I was afraid. Don't hide from me now because you're proud. We're stronger together. It took weeks for her to stop flinching when he paid for things, to accept that his resources were theirs now, that needing help wasn't weakness, but trust. His business began shifting. Legitimate investments replaced gray market operations. Enemies who made threats found themselves facing consequences swift and permanent. Daejung raised an eyebrow at a particularly ruthless response to a rival who'd mentioned Ilara's name. You've changed, Hyung. I have something worth protecting now, Jae-sung replied. That changes everything. 6 months after Kai's birth, they gathered both families in the 3rd Ward house's backyard. Ilara's mother, sisters, aunts, filling the space with Louisiana accents and loud laughter. Jae-sung's business associates stood awkwardly at first, then relaxed as Ilara's grandmother pressed sweet tea into their hands and demanded they try her gumbo. Before the ceremony, Jae-sung approached Ilara's mother. The woman who'd raised the love of his life watched him with sharp, assessing eyes. He knelt. "Mrs. Nyala, I should have done this from the start. I should have come to you with respect and honesty instead of stealing moments in shadows. I love your daughter. I love our son. May I have your permission to marry her? To be the man she and Kai deserve?" Ilara's mother studied him for a long moment, then reached down and lifted his chin. "You hurt my baby once. You do it again? I don't care how many scary men you know. I'll end you myself. Understood?" "Yes, ma'am." "Then yes, but you better treat her right." The ceremony was small, officiated by a judge Ilara's grandmother knew from church. Jae-sung's vows made grown men tear up. "I promise to love you in daylight and darkness, to choose you every day, to be the man worthy of the gift you've given me, your trust, your love, your future." Ilara's vows were simpler, but no less powerful. "I promise to let you carry weight with me, to trust instead of run, to build this life together, no more shadows." Kai's first birthday party was chaos in the best way. Korean talk and Louisiana king cake side by side. Ilara's cousins teaching Daejung the Cupid Shuffle, while Jae-sung's associates attempted to follow along. Children from both communities ran through the yard, shrieking with laughter. Jae-sung stood on the porch, Kai on his hip, watching Ilara demonstrate some dance move to his very confused second-in-command. She was laughing, her head thrown back, completely unself-conscious, surrounded by people who loved her. "This is power," he murmured to his son, who grabbed at his father's nose with sticky fingers. Kai babbled something that might have been agreement. Ilara looked up, caught his eye across the yard, and smiled. The same smile that had undone him in his study over a Toni Morrison quote. She mowed, "I love you." He mowed back, "Always," and meant it with everything he was. This was the life he'd almost lost because he'd been too afraid to claim it. Never again. This love, this family, this home built on vulnerability and trust, he'd defend it with everything he had. Not in shadows, in blazing, beautiful sunlight.